Super Earth, our home, ransacked, desecrated, besieged, and insulted. The chaos across the galaxy finally came home to roost, and yet, even with a bloodied lip, Liberty determined that we would succeed and survive the day. Now, Super Earth recovers, even begins to thrive, but true flourishing will never be accomplished until the Second Galactic War comes to a close firmly on the side of the right side of history. It has become clear to the unified leadership of global commands amongst every ministry that a new kind of escalation is required. Not just of freedom or managed democracy, but of education, knowledge, battle tactics, stratagems, and advice from every kind of Helldiver across the Armada. Helldiver Montgomery, operator of the SES Courier of Conviction. Welcome, Helldivers, to How It's Killed. Hello and welcome, Helldiver, both newly minted and veteran. My name is SinglePlayerCarl, Helldiver Montgomery, player and operator of the SES Courier of Conviction, and this is How It's Killed, a compendium and fundamentals, mechanics, and basics guide put together to assist a new player, as well as a veteran player returning to the game, actuate and associate themselves with the fundamentals, the concepts, the mechanics, and the idea and knowledge in module format, so that may become a skilled player at the game, and be better acquainted with concepts that the game does not communicate to you that would be required to learn through the crash course of set, forget, and trial and error. Before we get into the content, it is very important that the mission statement and purpose of the guide is made clear, as well as to keep away from future creep, as well as to define what the guide is not intended and meant for. This guide is intended for Helldivers both new and old, but with a specific focus and intention on the Helldiver Xbox contingency, recognized and mentioned as the X-Drone Force, arriving into the game sphere once the game has fully launched for the Xbox platform on August 26, 2025. If this describes you and your intentions, and you have absolutely zero knowledge and history of Helldivers 2 or its mechanics, congratulations, this guide is for you, and you will be fairly referred to as a standard bonded diver moving forward. If you are a diver who is returning to the field and already has experience, as well as any number of war bonds already unlocked and selected for your arsenal, congratulations and welcome back, Helldiver. We've missed you on the front, and you will be referred to as an extended bonded diver. The ultimate goal of this guide and its mission statement is to assist all newly minted standard bonded divers and returning extended bonded divers to reacclimate themselves to the environment, to acclimatize themselves to new game mechanics, new concepts, and new tools and gadgets, as well as providing opportunities and knowledge for those players to digest the content rather than in one singular mega upload guide, but instead in modular small bite chunks, working through materials and concepts step by step, so that for a newly minted player, they may be able to understand the mechanics of the game and what is expected of them, as well as for the returning players to modularly move between modules on multiple concepts so that they may get to the parts and the information they wish to know. As such, the purposes of the material is recorded in such a way to assist audio experimental players that need to see, that need to hear, and then have examples provided so that they may be able to do and reproduce measurable results in their own game sessions as well as in their own environments, consistent to how they work in the field, with assistance and knowledge from additional materials which will be mentioned in each section and in each module as needed. What is outside of the scope of this guide and is not the intended purpose of the material is for it to be used as a cudgel and beating stick against any particular newly minted and returning diver to the field because of any reason whatsoever throughout the known universe and perpetuity of the player base for whatever excuse, logic, reasons, or argumentation can be made, up to and including but not excluded to harassing new players for the way that they choose to play, harassing new and returning players for the way that they choose to play with the particular objects and factions they choose to face, and choosing to harass new and returning players with information from this guide as though that you are the most X-knowledgeable and X-phobic player. We do not care. They do not care. And you will not muddy my name in the name of other divers who will possibly use this material in the future because you want to be smug in an argument. I disavow any and all actions and statements to this degree, and I affirm that I am only here to give information and to spread information and make information aware, while doing so exacerbatingly clear from information that can be sourced, both data mined as well as expressed and confirmed by Arrowhead members, expressed furthermore as Global Command. Furthermore, I would like to give heavy thanks, gratitude, and considerations to both the community moderators and the community members of the Helldivers 2 official Discord operated by Arrowhead that have been instrumental to the ability to both gather information and find the time and energy, and most importantly from my audience, the funding to make this guide and its modules possible. None of this would be possible without any of you. Thank you for not hating black people. I'd also like to state the obvious, but also make officially clear that for every single guide that is out there, this guide is not attempting to compete with or besmirch or insult any of those guides or compendiums. For all of these guides are belonging to us, and for all of us, these are our guides. And for me, this is my guide. There are many guides like it, but this one is mine. And as it is mine, I have created and put together the material not just based on my own insights, but also based on the insights and questions and brainstorming that has been asked for and data mined from the members of my community, as well as from interacting divers that I have communicated and cooperated with, both inside of the official Discord, from the community Reddit, and from inside of the game state itself. With all T's crossed, Q's curled, I's dotted, and toggles in the kajiggered state, let us now begin from the very beginning of the game as the player leaves out of the tutorial, and let's go from there. Upon leaving from the outside of your deep freezer, you are left and dropped inside of the neutral lobby at the beginning of every game state. Whenever you log into the game, the position the game leaves you in is going to leave you closer towards the war room than the freezer, but the beginning of every session, every time you connect to another diver's lobby, will begin, if the game is not already in session, here in front of your freezer. Up your stairs, and immediately to your right, should you be an S-Class citizen that has either earned or has paid for the ability to access it, you will have access to Stratagem Hero, a Guitar Hero-like simulator that allows you to access a minigame that gives you the ability to function just like you are doing stratagems inside of the mission. Every time a proper stratagem is inputted with the amount of correct inputs with lag and time in between them, it enables the diver to be able to practice their stratagems. Every stratagem in the game is included, and there is a possibility to get good enough at this game to have a high score. However, the majority of the game itself is hacked, and the scores do not reflect the actual talent of the regular players playing, because of course it does. Immediately towards the center console is the lift pad that allows you to return to the field after being rescued from the field by Pelican 1. And directly in front of you is your Shipmaster, whom are all sisters of the Bald-Headed Brotherhood. Each one has a different name, but they all have and share the same model. Directly past and behind your Shipmaster, depending on whether or not you have the highest tier of ship module available to you, is the ship management screen, giving you access to both the destroyer, stratagem list, ship module list, and vehicle customization for the skins that you can apply to your materials. On the first of the list is the access that shows you both the progression of the modules available to you, the ability to change your ship's name, and the ship's log of where you currently are found and or the faction that you belong to. In the stratagem list, you will have a list of access to every stratagem that is available to the diver, both in access to the requisition list, as well as the stratagems that have been unlocked from war bonds. More about that in a future module. Behind the stratagem module is the ship module list, allowing access to the multitude of modules that will be directly affecting the ship from Tier 1 to Tier 5. Each one throughout the lists, including the Patriotic Administration Center, which is the actual window list in which these stratagems can be accessed and modules can be upgraded, also includes categories for the orbital cannons, the hangar, the bridge, the engineering bay, and the robotics workshop, with each tier needing to be progressed to and unlocked after the first. And finally, vehicle customization, allowing you to add and use different skins applicable from the war bonds that you have unlocked to use as customizable tools so that you can have flair on the battlefield. This serves no combat purpose other than morale. Outside of the Patriotic Administration Center, as you approach the center of the ship, immediately to your left will be the Armory. By having access to the Armory, you are able to access the weaponry, the Armory, the character sheet, the booster sheet, and the career page. In the weaponry screen, you have access to 3 slots, and these slots contain the primary, secondary sidearm, and throwable grenade module of the primary, secondary, and tertiary slot. In the Armory, you have access to your armor, helmet, and cape settings. Cape and helmet are completely cosmetic. However, for your armor, each armor piece that you have access to, if you have gotten the acquisitions to acquire them, will give you the ability to access different types of passives that will have an effect on your armor rating, speed, and stamina regen. More on that in a future module. And attached with the armor will be an armor passive. The most basic of armor passives accessible to the diver will be any armor passive that specifically is just a different flavoring of extra padding. Outside of extra padding, every armor in this game has a meaningful and relevant armor passive that is different based on that particular equipment, alongside the stat profile of the armor. Heavy armor is intended to be very defensive, but be as movable as a slug, as well as having low stamina regen. Medium armor is typified by having a medium distance armor rating between light and heavy. Sometimes it can be heavier, sometimes it can be lighter. For example, the chosen armor in question, the UF-50 Bloodhound, is accessible from the Truth and Force War Bond as an extended bonded diver. It has 25 more points of standard armor rating over the basic standard armor that has extra padding, and comes with the armor passive Unflinching, which provides the higher armor rating, as well as giving them the ability to prevent flinching when being hit, as well as half of the effect of the Scout passive, the passive that matters being the ability to place markers on the map that generate marker scans every 2.0 seconds. Above this, to the light, we'll have the exact same type of typographical armor passive, namely being the fastest but also the least resistant of the field. Alongside these passives, you will have the ability to make use of these armors whatever way you see fit. You are not married to using any one type of tool, and because of how relevant many armor passives, such as Siege Ready, are, it is a tactical skill to know what armors you favor in what situations for the loadouts that you choose to have. customize, and develop your own Helldiver swagger. On the other side of the screen, you have the non-functional and inactive bureau screen. This will be used instead as a projector screen to illustrate points within the field. Further towards the center of the screen, as you approach the war room, you'll be met by Democracy Officer Blood, and you'll have the ability to see overview of the drop pod capsules, as well as the outside zone of the last sector that you were found around, alongside all of the other destroyers that are also in the field. Before diving into the Galactic War Table, let's view our windows and menus. By pressing the Escape key, you're able to go and look at your particular standing currencies, particularly the currencies of note being the requisition slips, super credits, war bond metals, and the currencies of your samples, common, rare, and super uranium, flavored and colored as green, orange, and pink lemonade. Directly to the right of your currencies will be the level of the account in question, and displayed on the screen, should one be active, the current mission status of the major order that is currently on, its date and time and how long it has left, typographed by days and hours, and one's down to hours, and minutes, the objectives in question, whether they have been completed or not, as well as any additional minor orders that are in effect at the same time, strategic opportunities that may be in effect at the same time, and personal orders that will always be on a 24-hour period based on the reset timer. On the secondary screen will be your social screen, which will give you the ability to access whether or not you can be able to talk and see and speak to other divers by joining their lobbies and becoming a part of their gameplay loop. You have the ability to not only see new players based on the social screen in which you are communicating in them with, but also have the ability to look at recent players that you've been with, look at your freestanding friend requests, both received and sent, and the list of blocked players that you have blocked in your sessions. Finally, you have your options menu, which has the governance over your gameplay, display, graphics, audio, HUD, accessibility features, controller settings, mouse and keyboard settings, and account standing, as well as your Helldiver Arrowhead account number, found at the bottom of the screen. Directly outside of the top of that screen, you also have access to the dispatch and your effects. The dispatch shows the actions that are currently in effect, as well as the communicated numbers of things being said to the players in question, as well as a at the view ready reference sheet of what is exactly is in effect. For example, currently on the screen, an arsenal augmentation has been offered for the entire duration of the current major order, as we are on a safari hunt to stock Tyranny Park 2. As well, the strategic opportunity that was in effect at the beginning of the major order has been completed, as Krimska has been liberated, and the construction of a new E710 farm has already begun. Additionally, Tyranny Park 2 has had an expansion, which explains the minor order, as we have now been sent and asked to start hunting and neutralizing the Predator strain and the Sporeburst turrets of the sub-factions. More about the sub-factions in the future. Depending on the type of major order, minor order, and strategic opportunity that is in effect, there are occasional situations where you will be told exactly what you will be receiving. For example, success of the minor order will lead to the bestowment of the Orbital Napalm Barrage Stratagem to all divers for an undisclosed period of time. In certain cases, unlike and such as the strategic opportunity provided by Krimska, we do not know if it will be possible to see what is inside of it when it is brought up. This is because the majority of the game itself, not only as a live service game, is effectively an in-tune Dungeons & Dragons board, with Joel serving as the game masters that are responsible for what happens in our call and response system. More about this in a future module. Finally, at the beginning of the screen and at the top of the screen, by pressing R, or the relevant key on your controller, you'll be able to access the Acquisitions window. The Acquisitions Center displays not only your current standing count of super credits, but also your current standing count of warbond medals, as well as the Superstore, an additional side store that will give you the opportunity to look at and access all the materials relevant to the diver should they wish to look into the weapons that they would like to buy and the acquisitions that they would like to buy from the store. Some pieces of the store are on a rotating list, such as the current page of the Force of Law. Its offer will stand valid for 4 hours and 14 minutes before it is rotated out for something else. Alongside this, there are cosmetic pieces, as well as active use piecage. The PP77 Grandeur that is currently being hovered, a nod to wonderful action list and superstar Sylvester Stallone, and his depiction and portrayal of Judge Dredd, has ballistic padding, and it will allow you to have a 25% resistance to chest damage and 25% resistance to explosive damage, as well as preventing all bleeding if the chest hemorrhages. Additionally, it gives access to the lock-on featured medium penetrating one-handed guided pistol, the Warrant. There are additional pages here that correspond to the pages of each warbond, some of which, once they have been unlocked, will be permanent of status for you to be able to access them as a part of the warbond. Some pieces are only inside of the warbond tree, while other pieces must be purchased from the Superstore. Depending on whether or not you have the interest in them or you see virtue in having them, it might be suitable for your fortifications if you are to purchase these acquisitions so that you can diversify the pieces and parts of your kit that you would like to have additions for. Otherwise, everything is completely cosmetic and has no bearing on your success in the field, with the exception of the pieces that actually do. Example being that the Warrant can only be purchased in this way by getting this access to the acquisition center. Should you not purchase this, you'll have to wait for it to rotate again. Immediately after the acquisition comes the Super Credit Store. All of this is microtransactions. A player does not need to buy super credits in order to access their war bonds. However, should you have more money than you have time, it is suggested that if it does lead you to believe that you will have satisfaction and success in playing this game, that you do consider paying for super credits. Again, only consider this factor if you truly enjoy and intend on getting value out of playing the game more in the future, rather than using it as a benefit of whether you have more money than you have time. And for a simple overview for the war bonds, which will be looked into in a future section, there are numerous numbers of war bonds which you will have access to. But for the purposes of the guide, we are all assuming that the newly minted divers will have not purchased the Super Citizens Edition, especially if it has not been purchased before August 26th, 2025, for access to the Warbond token. More about that in a future section. Assuming that all divers are on the standard Warbond package, you'll have access to the Helldivers Mobilize page. 10 pages that is inclusive of all of the particular baseline equipment that will be afforded to the diver as they begin their progression track through the Warbond. Rather than thinking of these as battle passes, consider these as extensions of the already standardized Warbond that all divers start with. Inclusive inside of the mobilization pack, you not only have your weapons, you also have your armors, and customizable additions such as victory poses. Finally, now that we've rounded through the majority of everything accessible from screen on the ship, let us begin by engaging the Galactic War Table. As you can clearly see, upon accessing the Galactic War Table, after the success or failure of any major order, minor order, or strategic opportunity, you will get a heads-up display ping that will tell you about the active war fronts that the game encourages you to head towards. The section in question will be pinged to you, and the layout and the explanation of exactly what is being done, the briefing that is in question, and the relevant job that is to be achieved will be laid out by the briefing. direct from Global Command. Afterwards, you will have free reign to do whatever you wish on the Galactic table. Examples being, you could completely outright ignore the mission order and simply go to a place where you want to and do what gameplay is interest to you. You could face against the Illuminate. You could fight against the automatons. You could even choose to go to planets that are outside of the scope of the current sector and fight the Terminates. It is, however, to be understood, again with sections that will be explained in further modules, that the state of the governance of the board, unlike what you might expect in other situations and other games that you've played in the history of your gameplay, such as PlanetSide 2, does not corroborate to the exact same way of the kind of agency you have to make the gameplay of this game possible. Instead, the table is calculated by the actions of the collective efforts of all divers that are currently in the warframe of the entire theater and its capacity to do the job. Example being this current phase being fought here from Akamar 4. It is currently being invaded by the Predator strain. That Predator strain is technically meant to be originating from Gocrux. Because the invasion is coming from Gocrux, it has an invasion level of 35. We are currently being hovered, however, on the location by the Democracy Space Station. There is a large Helldiver contingency of around about 16k users on the planet, and their collective efforts are envisioned in blue, with the effects of the invaders envisioned in orange on the planet. The amount of time left for the defense is listed in the numbers in red. Example being, we have 1 day, 5 hours, 11 minutes, and 25 seconds and counting from the beginning of this sentence in order to defend the strain. Now let's talk about the Democracy Space Station. What's that? The Democracy Space Station is an initiation that was added to the game post-launch. The effect of the Democracy Space Station after it was constructed is that it now serves the purpose of a rapid mobile reactive patrol force. When the Democracy Space Station is in play, and if the actions have been paid for by the player base, it is possible for the Democracy Space Station to have an effect on all missions on the planet upon which it is hovering. Example being, currently, an active orbital blockade is in effect on the planet, meaning that defensive campaigns cannot originate from the planet that is currently being hovered. Unfortunately, in order for this blockade to be truthfully effective, it needs to have been placed on the planet that the invasion is coming from, not the place in which the invasion has been going. However, as this was activated with a number of 100% contribution from the stacking of the orbital blockade paid for by all the Helldivers in effect, it has now been activated for a period of 24 hours with an active time of 4 hours and 49 minutes left on the clock, upon which it will then go onto a cooldown similar to the Heavenly Ordnance distribution, which, when it is accessible, will give access to orbital 380mm high explosive barrage stratagem during missions, as well as assisting with the acceleration of progress in liberation campaigns. Finally, the stratagem that is currently down for its DSS tactical actives is the Eagle Storm. This allows for the deployment of periodic Eagle airstrikes, and will also allow you to slow down enemy progression in defensive campaigns. Right now, this is the type of DSS action we need, as this will not just outright slow enemy progress, it will bring it to an entire complete halt. In order to add your requisitions to the donation, you must first click the donation button. Upon clicking the donation of resources button, you will then get an option from 1 to the full stack. Upon giving your full stack, the number will be deducted from your total resources, and you will be thanked for your generous support of Managed Democracy. Finally, on the location screen, it is possible for divers upon a 4-hour rotation period to vote for the ability on where to move the DSS to next, with the total concurrency of votes being the final deciding factor of what allows you to truly have your say in making sure that you go where you believe the best opportunity is provided. As since this is a managed democracy, it means that it is a true democracy of all players in effect and Helldivers in effect when they are inside of the mission state. For example, from the location screen, you can clearly see the guiding lines that show the invasion force from Crux coming to attack Akamar 4. Because that is where we need to be, and we would not have the ability to make use of the Eagle Storm if we did not use it. Thusly, since the estimated time to be ready is in 12 hours, and our estimated time to defend is going to be an entire day, it will be necessary for us to get that in effect as soon as possible by being on Akamar 4. Therefore, we will vote to be on Akamar 4. In every single 4-hour period, your vote will reset, and you will have another opportunity to vote on where to go to next. For examples, one of the bigger names to want to go towards is the 2% resistance planet of Pandion. I can't remember numbers right now. Comparably, there are some voters, 2% of them, that have voted to go to Vernon Wells. Considering that it is not the current side of the mission order focus, it is not necessary to go to that side of the galaxy. But if something were to change the mission status, some type of opportunity opens across the planet, or some mission or minor order that would affect the Terminate front were to be available on the Automaton front, then it would be possible and viable for it to be consideration. Effectively, play it by night and play it by ear. You don't have to go everywhere, but you do have to go somewhere. It is necessary to understand the purposes and basics of how to make use of the table, because by understanding what to do, you understand where to go, as all direction for the game is specific to what you would like to do. If you are a casual player, this is of no interest to you, as you simply want to do what one wants to do, and that is to play the game and have fun with your friends. Alternatively, if you would like to be involved with the deeper understandings and mechanics that are in effect on the table, such as the fact that the weapon experimentation is now in effect for all Helldivers, no matter the battlefront, then it is important for you to pay attention to what is actually giving you those opportunities. Now, let's get into some gameplay, shall we? When entering into the mission selection screen, the particular dives that are going to be available to you are going to be dependent upon your particular progression for your account. From the beginning of the game, you will have access to Trivial, up to, eventually, Suicide Mission. It might even be possible that in your selection, Suicide Mission, Impossible, Hell Dive, and Super Hell Dive, mission difficulties 7 through 10, will not be available to you at the time of your acquisition. Instead, you will have to unlock up through your major orders and through your mission completion to access those difficulties. Upon getting to the screen, you have the ability to not only choose the planet upon which you choose to attack, but also to have the effect of going into the difficulty type that you wish to see. Inside of planets, depending on whether or not they have them or not, there is a difference between planetary defense and liberation and planetary defense in a city operation. Cities, settlements, and the like are physical locations that, when diving into the location, allows you to choose the type of mission that you will have the opportunity to act with. Each difficulty will have its own bonus, and with the scaling of difficulty, increases not only the amount of effects that are in play, but also increases the amount of operations that are on the board. The relevant difficulty of missions evaluate exactly what to expect when you choose to dive into that zone. Should you wish to ignore any of these, it is possible for you to completely forgo holding your own lobby and instead host missions from another player's lobby by joining as a reinforcement diver, or titularly called Dropjockeys. It is possible for you to scan on the planet and see available missions that you can dive into. These divers are in any particular phase of their missions and might require your help should you arrive in time. Effectively, this allows you the opportunity to be the difference maker, dive into missions, and get paid based on their mission operation status. Difficulties will change, and opportunities will change based on the dives that are available. Should you wish to, you could choose to do no dives in your own lobbies and only do reinforcement dives. You could also choose to only dive as the leader of your own lobby. The choice is ultimately yours, but no matter what, the game loop is the game loop. Should a diver choose to wish to ignore either of these and simply not wait to find missions, it is possible for the diver to instead select Quickplay. Quickplay can be selected at any point on the map, and depending on where it is selected, it will have different effects. Example being, if used from the Galactic War Table, it will instead search for locations inside of the entire war fronts in the theaters in campaigns of war to pull you to. It can take you to Terminids, it can take you to automatons, it can take you to the Illuminate. If focusing on a particular sector and a particular planet, it will then attempt to find active SOS beacons on that planet. The same applies to the automaton sector, as well as the Terminid sector. When in effect, and when relevant, it might be of interest that if you have no intention on doing any type of setup and you already know what it is you would like to do for your session, that you can simply choose your difficulty and dive into that mission type. If the countdown is proceeded until it times out, you will be pulled into a lobby alongside other players. Now, that's all for today on this section. However, when we return, we will be getting into the nitty-gritty of mission statuses and mission reports. So, signing off for this module, it is Helldiver Montgomery of the SES Courier of Conviction, and I'll see you soon. In fact, I'll be seeing you in a few seconds. Goodbye, Helldiver. How It's Killed's funding is provided by the combined logistical, fiduciary, and governance force of the Super Earth Federation and its known ministries and companies, including but not limited to Droman News and the Ministry of Truth. We stay informed to inform you. Cobb Genetics and the Ministry of Humanity. Nature 2.0. Trust Store Holdings Limited and the Ministry of Prosperity. Trust Store. We trust you to trust us. The Ministry of Science and the Center of Science, operating on Fenrir 3 in the Umlaut sector. Hermacure Pharmaceuticals and the Ministry of Unity. Hermacure, put your life in our hands. The Ulterior Corporation and the Ministry of Expansion. Ulterior, operating under the mantle. Additional operation costs and funding is paid for and provided by the Ministry of Intelligence and Employment in collaboration with the Ministry of Defense, utilizing the strategic arms of our partners, Morganson Munitions and Stahl Arms. Additional logistics and support provided by the United Negro Carl Fund, where a Carl is a terrible thing to waste. Support your Negrohood today, or you hate black people. And finally, the unilateral support, allegiance, advice, and suggestions from viewers and contributors like you. Thank you.